Hello and welcome to Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make our community tick. Today we're doing what we do periodically, which is we let the commenters have their say a second time. The people who read the articles in the New Haven Independent, people like me who depend on the Independent several times a day to find out what's going on in New Haven, and then bloviate like some of us love to do and give their opinions right on the articles. I collect some of the ones I thought were the most interesting discussions, and we read them out loud with some musical background. And then we'll have interludes of music. We'll have the background today, Beppe Gambetta, who's a guitarist I kind of like. His 2003 Gadfly Records release. And he'll be in the background while we read the comments. So the first headline. So it's headlines from the Independent, what the commenters wrote. This headline was, Orozco floats apt-focused ethics complaint against Elliker. Orozco is an individual running for mayor as a Republican, and he joined other politicians and neighbors in convincing the Elliker administration not to go through with a plan to sell a piece of property on Sargent Drive to the Abt Foundation so it could move its methadone clinic from Congress Avenue, where it's right by a school and all these people's homes and kind of terrorizing the neighborhood, to a place where nobody lives, nobody walks, everybody just drives in and out of big driveways. But they killed it by playing on people's fears and sometimes hatred of people with addiction. So he had a complaint, Orozco, which is kind of interesting. He and this guy, Jason Bartlett, suggested that the mayor, by liking a plan and wanting to do business with a group, to do a plan publicly, transparently, that's showing them preference and that's unethical. But they don't get to file an ethics complaint because they don't work for the city. They rightfully point out that there's something really screwy about a commission set up to investigate unethical behavior by government if people who aren't actually in the government and doing the unethical behavior can't file the complaints. We have this crazy rule in New Haven. So that's that. And this is what people wrote about it. Ann Dobo. This complaint is political theater and likely meritless. But it does bring up important points. Why can't citizens submit possible ethics complaint? The city and its leaders need to be accountable to all citizens, not just themselves. Obviously, I agree with that point. Although I do wonder, do you just let the place get flooded by people in the middle of the night or have grudges? You know, they're drunk in the middle of the night and they just file all these complaints. I'm thinking a person in particular. Or people just have grudges against someone to make up things. You'd have to have some kind of vetting. But I think this commenter's right that there should be a way. A commenter named Green Blue writes, wild that this crew manages to attack some of the most vulnerable community members who are struggling with a terrible disease, while also ensuring that the treatment center stays in a residential neighborhood without adequate space and right next to a school. No vision, no good faith, no problem solving. Just political pandering the worst way, sacking everyone with bad outcomes. Vote Republican had a different view. He started with a 6-letter verb in all caps. Change the charter so people can bring up ethics complaints. This is another, I think this person's learning from his president how to just randomly capitalize everything, example of how one-party rule has been bad. I'm speaking loudly when it's all caps. For New Haven. It's like the fox. And we know Fox is evil. Watching the hen house! Exclamation point. Kevin McCarthy sagely weighs in without any capital letters, except for apt, which spells his name with capital letters. Orozco does not appear to understand the relevant legislation, which in this case is clear, writes Kevin. The legislature regularly passes bills that convey excess state property to municipalities and other parties, most commonly nonprofits, for specified purposes. The conveyances routinely have a clause that requires that the property revert to the state if it is not used for one of the specified purposes within a specific time. The reason Kevin's writing this, he used to work at the Capitol writing some of these laws, is that the allegation is that by saying we want a deal to specifically give this group this property to specifically do this project, that somehow that's unethical, or that Kevin said that's actually the law, how you're supposed to do it. I saw a lot of conveyance bills in my 30 years at the Capitol, said Kevin. I don't recall seeing anyone without a reversion clause similar to one in this case. Typically, conveyances to municipalities and nonprofits only require the acquiring party to pay the administrative costs of the conveyance. Come to think of it, if they did what Orozco and Jason want and not say what it's for, then you can think you're selling someone a property to do something the public wants, and then they turn around and make it like a torture house or something. I mean, come on. Many people oppose the relocation of Abt to Long Wharf site for legitimate reason, writes Kevin, but there is no evidence of impropriety. The fact that Abt is exempt from property taxes is a matter of state law, not local politics. Now that the Abt relocation has been killed, the city faces a real challenge. It has less than 3 years to use the Long Wharf parcels for economic development or other uses allowed by law. Given the uncertainties affecting the development market, I worry that the city will be able to accomplish this, in which case the parcels will revert to the state. Toadster wrote, citizens can't file complaints against elected officials. Another example of how the system is rigged to protect the corrupt. If this rule did not exist, City Hall would need a fully staffed department to manage the complaints. Green Blue writes, very wild that the local branch of a very rotten and corrupt administration, wow, very, I wonder what the evidence is posing as a force against corruption. Perhaps take your cause to fight against the firing of people who honestly report numbers, the deep conflicts of interest in Trump's crypto world, the unlawful deportations, the illegal suspension of life-saving research funding, the censorship of words on university campuses. Those are some great points. Wow. Or instead concoct some cockamamie campaign against people struggling with disease to prevent them from getting treatment in a facility away from residences. Mark Twain's revenge at Green Blue. If the treatment is so important, why can't you see Abt Foundation patients selling their take-home methadone doses right outside their Congress Avenue location? So you're listening to comments from commenters on different independent stories here on Dateline New Haven, interspersed by music. I was going to play a song called Willing by Little Feat. I noticed something about last night. I think I listened to it 7 times in a row last night because I was having a new view on the song Willing. Willing is one of those classic country folk rock pop songs from the 70s, when that kind of, out of California but other places too, was emerging, that kind of style. And I think there's something that's kind of classic about the song, about that genre. And one thing I noticed last night was that a lot of people have covered this song, live versions. Tom Petty, Linda Ronstadt did a version, even Little Feat did live versions where they go wide, where they take the kind of chord progression that's kind of dreamy on this song, and they take it to places with improvisation and extended verses. When I listened to the original recording, I noticed something different. It's tight. So it's got this outlaw theme about the outlaw trucker with some really good wordplay and descending bass and all that kind of stuff. But when they recorded it, they did nothing unusual. You know, when you listen even to a recording that does experimental stuff, you listen to Beyonce, there's something interesting going on with the bass or the drums that you didn't notice the first time. Or like last night I had me listen to Nina Simone do a song where you notice she's doing some extra touches with her voice that you might not have noticed if you didn't listen closely. I noticed about Willin' that the original version did everything the opposite. To me, it was sort of the classic case of what that genre of music had arrived to at the time. It's a studio recording where every step that an instrument takes is what you would expect. So when they go into the instrumental interlude in the middle, you get a piano doing the verse one time around, kind of in the melody a little different, taking it where you'd expect. And then, as you would expect on that kind of recording from country folk rock, the slide guitar comes in and does a kind of slide guitar play solo you would expect that kind of gives you kind of pleasure points in your brain when it hits certain notes. And then it's right back to the tune. And there's a lot of feeling in the singing with the verse, the chorus, the solo, the verse, the chorus, and then come back at the beginning. And I thought that, you know, often we celebrate how people take music and find new stuff in it, like Jimi Hendrix with All Along the Watchtower, or however you want to do it. But that sometimes there's also something to celebrate in where a genre gets to with a kind of music that pushes all the right buttons with quality. There's nothing cliched about this song, right? It's an original song. But so anyway, that's a low way of talking, saying here's Willin' by Little Feat, the original version.
been warped by the rain, driven by the snow. I'm drunk and dirty, don't you know? And I'm still willing. And I was out on the road late at night. I seen my pretty Alice in every headlight. Alice, Dallas, Alice. And I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, to Hatchapee to Tonopah, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made, driven the back road so I wouldn't get weighed. And if you give me weed, white sand wine, and you show me a sign, I'll be willing to be moving. I've been kicked by the wind, robbed by the sleet, had my head stoved in, but I'm still on my feet, and I'm still willing. Smuggles and smokes and folks from Mexico, baked by the sun every time I go to Mexico. And I'm still, and I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, to Hatchapee to Tonopah, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made, driven the back road so I wouldn't get weighed. And if you give me weed, white sand wine, and you show me a sign, I'll be willing to be moving.
Willin' by Little Feat here on Dateline New Haven, what the commenters wrote. WNHH-FM. I think I talked a little bit I talked as long about that song as the song took itself. So my apologies for that. It's a sign that you're saying it too much. We're going through stories in the New Haven Independent, the indispensable source of news in New Haven, and what commenters wrote to these songs. And in the back, while we read those comments, we have the guitar playing of Beppe Gambetta. Another story that I thought had very interesting comments was, I think, the most important story taking place in town these days, which Tom Breen and the Independent staff are all over from this day to Sunday, about the ICE arrest of a high school student from Wilbur Cross from Guatemala, who was he's here without permission, legal permission, and he was doing the dangerous, horrible task of working for a living at a car wash. So he got swept up in one of the raids from ICE that is facing a dictate from the Trump administration to just make as many arrests as they can, whether or not these are people posing a danger to society, which was supposedly the reason they were doing immigration raids. And until recently, it was actually stated they have to do 3,000 arrests a day. But in any case, they're sweeping into places like car washes and just getting people out of the country as fast as they can before sometimes anyone even knows what state they sent them to. So this was the story. Attorney calling ICE cancels detained teens expedited removal flight to Guatemala. Daniel Ellen, and the kid's name is Estras. I hope I'm saying it right. I might not be. Daniel Ellen wrote, "Hooray! I hope Estras is released in time for him to start his senior year of high school. I take heart in knowing that even when the U.S. government does legal evil and enforces inhumane laws in draconian ways, Connecticut Yankees resist. We know the difference between what is law and what is good. The, quote, illegals, unquote, in the 1850s were runaway slaves, and U.S. Marshals hunted them down, charging Northerners who gave them shelter and aid on the Underground Railroad. But we were on the right side of history then, and also looking for cheap labor to exploit. We'll get onto that. And also wanted to compete with the cotton plantations down south. And we, well, the majority of us, are again now. We can change the laws, but we do have to resist them first. Whether in the streets, ballot boxes, comment sections, and even battlefields. Lord hopes that isn't necessary again. But Yorktown and Gettysburg were fought and won to defy the unjust laws that ruled the land. In America, the government does not lead the people. The people lead the government. If anyone defends the unjust and unpopular actions of the people's government by declaring that is the law, as if that alone is all the justification needed, just throw their tea in the harbor and keep on resisting. Here's a commenter whose name I really like. Faux Realism. Faux Realism wrote, Trump's policy is a return to what Democrats are saying they want to do 20 years ago. Was Barack Obama a racist? Here is a video of his views on illegal immigrants in 2005. That got a response from an HPS teacher. Equating Trump and Obama just because they both deported people, but in different ways, is like saying a firefighter and arsonist are the same because they both deal with fire. Context, intent, and impact matter. City Yankee 2. So 46% of the people arrested have no criminal records at the time they're detained nationwide. So that means 54% did have criminal records. More than half of those detained had some criminal activity. That's according to them, if you believe them. So it is working. If people have their cases processed quickly, we can move on to the real issue of good immigration policies and reforms. But the group of people who skirted the law and may be involved in crime must go. That brought a response from RSNH 2010. City Yankee. Your statement makes no sense. You're willing to tolerate a 46% level of unjust detentions because a slight majority of all detentions are allegedly justified by evidence of criminality? And by the way, I don't think that means convictions. I would be very cautious about accepting these figures at face value to begin with. Much of this alleged criminality is just indictments without actual convictions. That's not fair. And many of the actual convictions are for relatively minor, nonviolent crimes, some of them far in the past. Also not fair. And for yet another level of skepticism you should apply, keep in mind this administration lies about everything. Lying is central to their ideology and who they are. I would not trust any of their figures in the first place. Remember what they said? It was a DEI reason that plane crash happened. And most of all, the rest of us can never trust Republicans when they say they believe in the rule of law and want to see zero tolerance for law breaking of all kinds. And that's why they support this immigration crackdown. It is worth noting the president is a convicted felon. I trust I don't need to go into detail about why the hypocrisy of that stance is glaringly apparent. Josh wrote, in other words, they are not just targeting people with criminal records. They're targeting everybody who looks a certain way, just like we said they would. KT Mulvaney says, I feel naive saying this, but I agree there is a potential hopeful message here. That while ICE can feel unstoppable, legal pushback and public pressure can stop this, at least the worst of it. In fact, one of the reasons these deportations are trying to move so quickly might be because they fear this reaction. We just have to do the work of paying attention and raising a fuss, because this regime was always relying on sloppy incompetence moving too fast for anyone to care. But we do. We care. One City Dump wrote, I love that his name was, well, there are a lot of ways you can interpret that name. Josh, what evidence do you have that ICE deportation criteria is how one looks? Union, isolations of goons, advocating confrontation and ID of agents? Really? They're law enforcement officers, or are all cops goons to you? RSNH, criminal conduct is being in this country illegally. While 46% have no other criminal conduct other than immigration issues, there's no reason not to deport them. And for the record, why exactly should edgers be allowed to stay if in fact doing so is not legal? Why give them privileges not afforded to others? RSNH 2010 responds to One City Dump. Quote, criminal conduct is being here in this country legally, close quote. I would advise people who have not familiarized themselves with immigration law to avoid making uninformed assertions about it. It is in fact and almost always not a criminal act to be in the U.S. without proper permission. Quote, OCD wrote, why exactly should edgers be allowed to stay in this if in fact doing so is not legal, close quote? Because it is a great and crucial tradition of our country to welcome people fleeing poverty, persecution, and violence, especially people like Estras who demonstrate themselves to be hardworking and kind. There's also a long-standing and cherished human tradition to behave in this way. As for your professed concern that everyone should behave legally and that all illegality should be punished, may I direct your attention to our chief executive and the cop beaters whom he pardoned on January 6th. It is difficult to take your concern for law and order seriously when you condone serial sexual assaults, extravagant financial fraud, insurrection, assault on law enforcement officers, and many other crimes too numerous to list here, which are okay, it seems, and not worthy of prosecution if they are committed by MAGA leaders or followers. Jane had 5 words. Jane wrote, "Thank you, Attorney Cologne Williams." That's the attorney who stepped in. Heather C. had something to say. Heather C. wrote, "It's pretty clear that immigrants are being snatched up, moved around to different detention centers to avoid their loved ones knowing where they are. To get them legal aid and expedited deportation orders are put in place to avoid immigrants from having due process with access to legal representation at a court hearing to defend themselves from deportation and plead their case to stay here, and to defend against any allegations made, if any, against them. You can't argue due process if people aren't being allowed to communicate their whereabouts or being given legal representation in a court hearing before the feds move to deport them. We must keep demanding full due process in all relevant judicial systems with legal representation and right to know and defend themselves against any allegations made against them. Comprehensive common sense immigration reform with transparency, humanity, technology, and accountability needs to be passed by Congress to prevent the fiasco of justice that we are seeing now. Keep protesting. Donate to legal aid for immigrants. Pester our lawmakers. Use social media and media as a weapon against these new policies and fight to make these stories known. The enemy of authoritarianism is to loudly resist against it. Silence equals complicity. Or as MJ Lenderman says, wherever you find me, you will find me on my knees.
Those hiccups don't quit. I had a thought, but I forgot, like a train on a burning bridge. Is it the quiet whisk of a midnight hiss, or a river turned to creek? Oh, wherever you find me, you'll find me on my knees. Oh, wherever
MJ Lenderman, On My Knees. This baby boomer's pick for best song of 2024, especially in the eyes of baby boomers who have ideas about what Gen Z musicians sound like as rock artists when they incorporate new generation shoegaze and classic rock tropes. You're listening to Dateline New Haven, What the Commenters Typed, where we read some of the comments by New Haven independent readers posted to the stories that Tom Breen and his crew work so hard to get us every day. Mostly I'm reading a series of comments as a conversation. There was one story where I thought one comment told a story in and of itself, and I'd like to read that one aloud. The story was Principal Prosecutor Mike Dearington dies at 83. He was the chief prosecutor in New Haven for 3 decades. Really interesting guy. Got a lot, as you could expect, even that job, if you're low profile, you're going to get in a lot of arguments with people. And one person he got in a lot of arguments with was a cop who became a high-ranking cop, acting chief, head of detectives, John D. Valletta. John D. Valletta wrote this about Mike Dearington. As a young detective in 1997 to 1999, Mike Dearington was a mentor to me. He'd answer my calls and my questions at any time of day or night. He even came to my wedding and my bachelor party. I can recall a time in 1998 when I was new to major crimes that had never written a crime scene search warrant before. Mike, and remember, Mike didn't work for the police, he was a prosecutor. Mike came in at 3 a.m. and sat by my side and told me what to type. Yes, it was on a typewriter. I'll never forget that night. It was my first real investigation. When I was a detective, he took very good care of me. When I became a detective supervisor, let's just say we fell off each other's Christmas lists. However, my relationship with Mike was deeper than the now infamous incident referenced in the article when they had a conflict in court. When I attained command-level positions in the Detective Bureau, Mike and I differed in opinion very often. The goals and considerations of a chief of detectives and a state's attorney are not always the same. Public safety was my paramount concern, while successful prosecution was Mike's. That is simply the way things are and the way things need to be to create balance. In my opinion, these two positions will always be at odds. The intensity will just vary. We were both pretty intense. I'll interject that I think Dearington would not say that he had less of a concern for public safety, but that he thought the rules of successful prosecution made the community safer by making people follow them and deciding whom to charge, but that's an aside. John continued to write, through it all, I never once doubted Mike's commitment to his profession or the criminal justice system. As Thomas Jefferson said, difference of opinion leads to inquiry, and inquiry leads to truth. I believe that we were both always after the truth. We may have mixed it up frequently, but there was never a time when I lost respect for Mike. My sincere condolences to the Dearington family. What a beautiful piece. That John Valletta can really write. Puts himself out there. You might disagree or agree with him sometimes, but there's so much heart and thought that goes into it. I just love when one person's life can inspire that kind of tribute from somebody else. So we can take a musical break here with Hooray for the Riff Raff doing Buffalo. And the act came last week to the Space Ballroom, and Doreen Chernecki wrote a terrific review that not only made us feel like we were at that concert, those of us who unfortunately couldn't make it, but made a case for why Hooray for the Riff Raff is a music very much for these times we're living in right now. So here it comes.
In a river, saddled up by the Piñon fire, drove out to the edge of the Pueblo, bought a drum from a man who cried, and the children's shoes on the ceiling, and the way that you hold my hand. And I yelled and I didn't know the reason, but I knew that you'd understand. 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo, 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo. Some things take time, I know they do. Some things take time, I know they do. I hope our time will never go. I hope our time will never go. 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo, 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo. Will we go like the woolly mammoth or the deer dodo? Gone like the batchman's warbler, disappeared like the melting snow. Little Mary on a fruit bats, or the bridled white-eyed bird. Or will we keep on running like the sound of the buffalo herd? That sky red hawk recorded out on his cousin's farm up north in Minnesota. He tied the recorder in the yard up to a gate post waiting, slept out in a tent to hear the rumble of the big stampede that one day magically appeared. 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo, 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo. Some things take time, I know they do. Some things take time, I know they do. I hope our time will never go. I hope our time will never go. 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo, 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo. And I want us to be like that, running wild and running free. This year tried to kill us, baby. Well, good luck trying, you can't catch me. And I'll jump off this cliff with you if that means we will survive. 'Cause we drove out to the desert just to leave the past behind. And our footsteps fall in shadows, treading light down the canyon trail. And the sun is barely rising, and the stars like a wedding veil. And I cannot lie to you, 'cause you can read my mind. So I think I'll try with you. Some things just take more time. 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo, 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo. Some things take time, some things take time. And I hope our time will never go. I hope our time will never go. 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo, 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo. 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo, 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo. Some things take time, I know they do. Some things take time, I know they do. And I hope our time will never go. I hope our time will never go. 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo, 2 weeks just to catch the buffalo.
2 weeks to catch the buffalo, and you're catching Dateline New Haven, what the commenters typed on WNHH-FM. That was Hooray for the Riff Raff. And we're reading comments from New Haven independent readers on different stories. And in the background, during the reading, listen to Beppy Giambetta's guitar playing and having musical breaks in between. Well, not since Casablanca has there been ever more shock, amazement, and stupefaction, and surprise, and redundancy. Then, the latest raids that showed that the store Vape R Us was selling vaping cannabis products that they were so clearly advertising, and now the state has suspended their vape license, but letting them, since they're so trustworthy here and in other states where they've worked, to continue to sell other stuff and pretend they're not selling cannabis illegally that might be spiked with that nightshade that's coming, whatever it's called, from China or whatever else. So the headline is State Suspends Vape R Us's vape license. Neighbor wrote, it's common sense that if you're selling illegal drugs out of a storefront with intent to hook kids, notice they're continuing to sell backpacks, the consequences should be shut down the store permanently, shut down all other locations permanently, take away all licenses for adult use addictive substances, no nicotine, liquor, kratom, vapes, juice, dabs, or any kind, tobacco products, cannabis. What about the OG stores in the west side who have crews out front, blocking the sidewalks and entryways, watching for cops so they can get out back or put into the cars parked nearby? Check those basement crawl spaces, spots under the counter, behind the counter. So if you're reading Neighbor and you're in law enforcement, you now have some thoughts about how to do your job. It's just me wrote at Neighbor, you left out, quote, check the cookie jar, the piggy bank, the sugar bowl, the cigar box. Smitty, just make it legal already, like cigarettes and alcohol. Heather C wrote, permanently revoke their vape products license and revoke their tobacco products license. If they own separate liquor stores or other adult products businesses, revoke those licenses also. 3 separate inspections found violations. This is a bad actor in the community. Put them out of business. tighten up regulations for all products related to tobacco, nicotine, cannabis, CBD, hemp, THC-related products, to regulate and restrict and product quality control test all items for what ingredients they contain and how they can be produced, distributed, labeled, packaged, marketed, sold to protect the consumer. They know exactly what is in the products they are buying, to discourage young people from being attracted to these products, to keep these products away from sensitive locations, and to more align regulations with alcohol and tobacco merchandise, and review legal cannabis regulations to more closely align with other neighboring states' regulations, and to encourage legal regulated use over these illegal products. Push for statewide and federal-wide regulations like these and for more enforcement with customs for those importing these products. We have to do more to protect our people. Concern for New Haven wrote, I don't understand why this smoke shop and others like it can't simply be shut down. If they were illegally selling cannabis products, a large amount of it was seized, and no taxes were paid on these sales. Why can't it be shut down? Also, the state should have tighter restrictions on who can get a license to sell cigarettes, tobacco, and vape products. If an applicant or license holder is found to be illegally storing and selling large amounts of cannabis products, their licenses should be permanently revoked. I can't pronounce this next commenter's name, so I'm going to spell it for you. Noxinwj, Noxinwj, wrote, a reasonable person might have expected the first time police raided his shop and seized his product would have educated this naive businessman that cannabis, quote, was illegal to sell in his shop in Connecticut, close quote. Just as it would have been in his native New York, I might add. What the commenters typed and what the Blue Jeans sang in their song America Pulse, featuring Kristen Ford and MC Genesis Blue.
And they ain't trying to shine all the diamonds in the rough. I think it's time to take a stand. Enough is enough. Call they bluff, cause I don't think you really understand. If we come together, we don't have to blame the man. Don't need no 40 acres, just give me the whole land. Diversion is created just to see you from the plan. Goddamn, I'm just trying to spit the knowledge, take notes. How you sink a ship when you're in the same boat? Try to hit a stroke, but we can't stay afloat. Something's out of order, but they swear it ain't broke. That's a joke, cause we ain't got the same rights. And even if I get it, gotta put up a fight. And I ain't really saying that I got the answer key, cause really all I want is for my people to be free, to be free. The beat of my heart is crying L-O-V-E, cause I want all of my people to be free, to be free. The beat of my heart is crying L-O-V-E, cause I want all of my people to be free, to be free. America, checking for your hoes. 49 heartbeats, they profited enough. Family, struck down in our month of pride. Praying on your knees, who will stand? Get up and fight. Get up, act up and fight. Black, white, brown, multiracial and Asian, but none of us were here until they took it from the natives. Then we turned around and had a nerve to be racist. Justify the use of religious discrimination. Now the terror got us in the palm of their hand, but we can't get together to create a counter plan. Violence, silence, rising riots, innocent dying, government lying. Can't get ahead cause we all too consumed with who I sleep with and where I use the restroom. I'm just trying to tell you that I got the antidote. Campaign for love, let peace win the vote. Feel like giving up, but I still got hope. Respecting every person, that will really be dope. You can stand with love or fall from the hate. Let's adopt one label for ourselves, human race. Oh yes, we should pray for Orlando, like we prayed for Sandy Hooks and Bernardino. Well, stop going to the movies and stop going to the club. Even kindergartners should be carrying a gun. Stonewall was a riot after prayers were not enough. So won't you stand up? Won't you stand up? America, checking for your pulse. The beat of my heart is crying L-O-V-E, cause I want all of my people to be free, to be free. The beat of my heart is crying L-O-V-E, cause I want all of my people to be free, to be free. Now what we want, peace, and who is us? We. So just let us be and live in harmony. Now what we want, peace, and who is us? We. So just let us be and live in harmony.
The beat in my heart is spelling L-O-V-E because I want my people to be free, says MC Genesis Blue and Kristen Ford, an American Pulse. We got one more set of comments here. WNHHFM headline and baselines are doing what the commenters typed to articles in the Independent. While Debbie Jim Betta keeps the guitar playing in the background. The headline was Ocean pressed to make repairs. We're not talking about the mighty ocean in the water off our coast. We're talking about the all-powerful mega landlord Ocean that just runs slum properties all over town. And the city said, on this latest 2 properties, we'll give you 2 weeks before we fine you. You know we should have been fining you a long time ago. Ocean said, well, in some of these repairs, they won't let us in the apartment. Not others. So here's what commenters had to say. It's kind of interesting. City Yankee 2 wrote, please explain how a landlord is supposed to make a repair in 2 weeks if the tenant has not let them in for months. Well, Kevin McCarthy, as we know, loves to explain. So he wrote back, CY2, the article clearly states that the tenant in question lived on the 3rd floor. And it clearly states that violations include, quote, holes in the basement ceiling that compromise fire safety, structural damage to exterior ports and porch railings, and cluttered common areas. The tenant's lack of cooperation is irrelevant to fixing those problems. And the landlord undoubtedly has a key to that apartment. While leases routinely limit when a landlord can enter an apartment, a tenant cannot bar entry altogether. I think it would be useful for LCI to have a publicly accessible database of complaints that have not been resolved as of the second scheduled inspection. I suspect few people would even consider these properties unless they were truly desperate. Obviously, some individuals are desperate. City Yankee 2. Kevin, I know landlords have keys. I would not go into an apt, meaning apartment, where the tenant was not willing. Years ago, people were unpredictable. Today, people are crazy. I would not risk my life or the life of a worker over this. Even elsewhere on the premises, someone can get hurt. Take me to court. I did not have broken down properties like this. It is no longer safe to be a landlord. That's why I got out. Mandy's doing what they can to get in and around the property. I doubt anyone can do better before the tenant is removed. Interesting. Mandy was not the landlord here. It was Ocean. But I guess they're all Jewish. Dennis writes, Kevin, you're assuming LCI is competent. They clearly are not. They don't have a basic record of who owns each property and whether or not the property is subject to the licensing agreement. LCI showed up at my owner-occupied 3-family house a few weeks ago, unannounced, looking to inspect the property, even though I have submitted the paperwork saying that I own the property and therefore I'm not subjected to regular inspections. Kind of basic stuff that they seem to be getting wrong. Heather C. writes, Dennis agreed. LCI needs to get more professional, more organized, and be better communicators with better records, keeping as well as more transparent. I've seen how LCI can be not great with a good landlord and bad tenants. They need to do better. I've also seen bad landlords who have been unfair to good tenants. They need to hold those landlords accountable. Sometimes it's really, really hard to disagree with Heather. I don't disagree with that. Supercat wrote, LCI is extremely disorganized. They sent me a letter that they were doing an inspection of my apartment unit at a specific day and time. They didn't show up for that appointment. Then they just randomly showed up a few weeks later without any notice or letter. I could not get to the door in time, but I saw the guy bolt down the stairs and it said LCI in the back of his jacket. So, basically, they show up when they aren't supposed to and don't show up when they say they're going to. Makes total sense. Here's a commenter named Come On, Really? Come On, Really? Wrote, it is comical that some of you people take the side of a notorious landlord. That's the whole problem. If the city played hardball with this landlord from the start, didn't give numerous chances to comply, it wouldn't be in this position. These types of landlords try to slither through every loophole, make every excuse. The city gives them second, third, fourth, chances. It's ridiculous. Neighbor wrote, these rental companies have a history. They will absolutely continue following worst practices. Getting $1,500 to $2,500 a month for Section 8 housing in this exterior and interior condition must stop. These landlords are falsely driving up prices in New Haven. Pay them less because they are providing less. These places should be $750 at most. Stop the Section 8 gravy train! Exclamation point, all caps. Increase inspections. Overcharging on government-subsidized Section 8 housing is, ready, all caps, fraud! Exclamation point. What they're doing is criminal. Dennis is back in the conversation. Dennis wrote, at Neighbor, the Trump administration is trying to cut Section 8 funding in half and limit the voucher to 2 years. This would have a dramatic impact on the New Haven rental and housing markets. In his budget plan for the fiscal year 2026, President Donald Trump has proposed cutting a total of $32.9 billion in funding to HUD. The plan includes a $26.7 billion cut to federal rental aid, approximately 40% of the total, and would essentially end Section 8 and other housing voucher programs, according to, get it while you can still hear it, NPR. Instead of providing aid at the federal level, the budget proposes creating a grant program to send rental assistance funds to states. It would terminate many federal regulations, incentivize states and the private sector to provide affordable housing, and work in tandem with efforts to open public lands to development. By the way, I think it's great the federal government is reevaluating the Section 8 program. Voucher holders who rent in our poorest communities pay way more than they should for the condition they live in. No renter spending his or her money would pay what Section 8 is paying. Section 8 payments have contributed to the rise in rental prices. Heather C. writes, Dennis, interesting info. I predict the shifting of all social support services programs, responsibility of states without shifting the actual federal funds needed. We're going to have a whole lot more unhoused people. Meanwhile, Trump is building more detention centers. Who is he going to put there when all the immigrants are deported? Actually, that's a really scary thought. I think that's us. And adding a $200 million plus ballroom to the White House and the taxpayers' backs. Funding with gutting our government services and funds and leveling insane tariffs on goods imported from out of the country. Winefest gets the last word. Winefest writes, why is it that the city allows Ocean and Manny to buy up large parcels of land and properties and just sit on them until they deteriorate? Just look at Fitch Street and Dixwell Avenue property. I bet the neighborhood they live in doesn't have abandoned, rundown property in it. It's a pattern with them. They buy and sit on it until the neighbors run down, then they flip it for big dollars. Well, we figured it all out with the commenters today. And now we're going to take it out by thanking Harry Droz for working the controls, thanking the New Haven Independent staff for the great articles they write that inspire such wonderful comments, and thank you for listening. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It'd Feel to Be Free from the group CD A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day and all night long at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.